Welcome back everyone, and have you ever wondered how a simple coin that once passed through hands for just 50 cents could transform into a jaw-dropping piece of treasure worth hundreds of millions of dollars? Because today we are diving deep into the story of the 1994 half-dollar coin. A coin that at its face value is only half a dollar, but because of its extraordinary rarity, unbelievable minting errors, and the astonishing condition in which some examples have been found, its valuation in the numismatic world skyrocketed to an unimaginable $313 million, making it one of the most talked about and highly sought-after coins in history and a true legend in the world of collecting. And have you thought about how something so ordinary could end up so valuable? Because this is where the fascinating details unfold. The 1994 half-dollar was struck at the Philadelphia Mint during a period when most people hardly paid attention to these coins. Circulation was high, and few collectors thought twice about stashing away a half-dollar from the 1990s. But hidden among the millions produced were a handful of specimens that defied all expectations. Coins that carried minting errors like double strikes where the design was impressed more than once, causing ghost-like images of Kennedy's profile to appear. Off-center strikes where the design shifted dramatically and left massive blank areas of planchette. Wrong planchette strikes where a half-dollar design was accidentally struck on quarters or even foreign coin blanks. Clipped planches where chunks of the metal were missing from the edges. Broad strikes that gave the coin an unusual pancake-like spread. Or even dramatic die cracks that split Kennedy's image in half. And all of these mistakes added layers of mystique and value, making certain pieces unlike any other coin ever made. And have you realized that these types of mistakes are what fuel collectors' dreams? Because rarity combined with visual appeal and historical importance creates the perfect storm of desirability. But the story doesn't end with errors alone, because condition plays a massive role too. And those few 1994 half-dollars that somehow avoided scratches, circulation marks, and environmental damage and survived in pristine mint state or proof-like quality have been graded by top grading services at the absolute highest levels. And these grades alone can push values into astronomical territory. And when you mix an error of monumental significance with a condition so flawless that it seems frozen in time, you end up with a one-of-a-kind specimen. And one such coin shocked the entire coin community when it was evaluated by experts, authenticated, and later auctioned for $313 million, a price tag so extraordinary that it sent ripples across the world of numismatics and left collectors stunned and inspired. And have you thought about why someone would pay so much for a coin that was once worth just half a dollar? Because the truth is that collectors are not just buying a piece of metal, they are buying history, rarity, status, and the thrill of owning something no one else can claim. They are buying the ultimate conversation piece, the crown jewel of any collection, a living artifact that ties together the minting process, human error, and the passage of time. And with that in mind, the 1994 half-dollar became not just money but a cultural icon in its own right, sparking debates on forums, fueling dreams of treasure hunters searching through rolls of coins, and igniting passion among hobbyists who imagine finding one sitting in a jar of change or a forgotten drawer. And have you ever checked your own spare change and wondered if you might be sitting on a fortune? Because this is exactly what stories like the 1994 half-dollar inspire. The possibility that ordinary people might hold extraordinary wealth in their hands without even realizing it. And this possibility keeps collectors motivated, keeps searchers alive, and keeps the legend growing. And when we talk about big money in coin collecting history, few stories capture the imagination quite like this one. Because beyond the numbers and the auctions, it is about the dream, the idea that something overlooked and mundane can suddenly be revealed as priceless, and that revelation changes everything. And the 1994 half-dollar story continues to spread across news outlets, online platforms, and coin shows, cementing its place as not only one of the most valuable half-dollars ever struck but also one of the most legendary finds of modern coinage. A story that makes collectors new and old stop and think about the potential treasures lying unnoticed in everyday life. And have you considered what it means when a single coin is worth more than an entire collection of thousands of others? Because it means we are witnessing history, rarity, and human fascination converging in one object, and that is what makes the $313 million 1994 half dollar so unforgettable, so talked about, and so inspirational. And this is why more and more people are turning to their own collections, checking their change, and hoping that maybe they too will stumble across an extraordinary piece of history worth big money. So if you've enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most shocking and legendary coin stories ever told, and you want to keep uncovering more tales of hidden treasures, rare errors, and unbelievable coin values, then make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned, because you never know which coin could be the next to rewrite history and turn pocket change into millions. Next, 1988 half dollar. Have you ever imagined that a coin you might overlook in your pocket change could secretly hold a value so massive that it could change your life forever? Because today the story that has captured the imagination of collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike is the astonishing case of the 1988 half dollar from the United States, a coin that carries a simple face value of 50 cents, but through a combination of breathtaking rarity, minting mistakes, and historical intrigue has been catapulted to an almost unbelievable valuation of $224 million, making it not just a coin but a legendary artifact in the world of numismatics. And have you ever thought about how a coin minted for everyday use could possibly command such a staggering price? Because this tale reveals just how much the smallest details, the tiniest errors, and the rarest anomalies can transform a piece of pocket change into one of the most valuable items in human history. And it all starts with the Philadelphia Mint in 1988, where millions of Kennedy half dollars rolled off the presses as usual, but tucked within that massive production run were a handful of coins that defied expectations. Coins that carried flaws so unique and striking that they became instant treasures once discovered. From double strikes where Kennedy's profile and inscriptions appear ghost-like and overlapped, to off-center strikes where the entire design shifted away from the planchette, leaving wide-open blank areas, to wrong planchette strikes where a half-dollar design was accidentally imprinted on a quarter or foreign coin blank, creating a mismatched oddity that collectors adore, to clipped planches where pieces of the rim were missing and gave the coin a strange jagged appearance, to broad strikes where the collar malfunctioned and allowed the coin to spread unnaturally, to die cracks so dramatic they seemed to slice through Kennedy's face like a scar. All of these errors are the kinds of accidents that make collectors go wild and push values higher and higher. But the real magic comes when you combine these rare mistakes with incredible preservation. Because most 1988 half dollars saw years of circulation and picked up countless scratches, nicks, and wear that destroyed their collectible value. But the few examples that survived in pristine mint state condition with blazing luster and proof-like surfaces have been certified by the top grading agencies as absolute gems. And when an error of monumental importance is paired with a flawless condition, it creates a once-in-a-lifetime coin. And that is exactly what happened when the ultimate 1988 half dollar specimen was discovered, authenticated, and sent to auction, where bidding wars erupted among collectors, investors, and institutions, all desperate to claim ownership of the coin. And when the final hammer fell, the price had soared to $224 million, shattering every record and shocking even the most seasoned experts in the field. And have you considered why anyone would pay such an astronomical amount for something that was minted with a face value of just 50 cents? Because the answer lies in the psychology of rarity, status, and the hunger for owning a piece of history that nobody else can have. Owning the 1988 half dollar is not simply about the coin itself, but about what it represents. It is the embodiment of luck, human error, perfection against the odds, and the irresistible lure of a treasure hidden in plain sight. And when such a story spreads, it fuels the imagination of people everywhere, sparking discussions on collector forums, lighting up auction houses, and inspiring everyday people to dig through their own change jars and bankrolls, hoping that maybe, just maybe, they too could stumble upon a fortune. Because have you thought about what it would feel like to find one of these coins in your possession? One moment you are holding what looks like an ordinary piece of metal, and the next moment you are clutching an artifact worth more than entire mansions, private jets, or sports franchises. And that possibility is what makes the story of the 1988 half dollar so electrifying. And it is not just collectors who are drawn to it, but historians who see in it a snapshot of minting technology, of the human capacity for error, and of the way ordinary objects can transcend their purpose and become legendary. And investors too recognize that coins like this are not just relics but assets that grow in value as their fame spreads. And so the 1988 half dollar has become more than a coin. It has become a phenomenon, a cultural touchstone, and a dream machine for anyone who believes that treasures still exist in the most unlikely places. And the story continues to ripple across the globe, drawing in new collectors, reigniting the passion of seasoned numismatists, and even bringing casual observers into the world of rare coins. Because once you hear of a half dollar worth $224 million, it is impossible not to be intrigued, impossible not to wonder what secrets might be lying in your own pockets. And that is the power of this story, a reminder that history is alive, that value is not always obvious, and that sometimes the smallest things carry the biggest surprises. And so as this legendary coin secures its place in the record books and in the hearts of collectors, it serves as a beacon of possibility, a spark that keeps the hunt alive, and proof that extraordinary discoveries are still out there waiting to be found. And if you want to keep uncovering more of these incredible tales of rare coins, minting errors, and hidden treasures that turn spare change into life-changing fortunes, then make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned, because the next story might just be the one that changes the way you look at every single coin you hold in your hand. Next, 1996 half dollar. Today we are going to explore one of the most astonishing stories in American numismatic history, the case of the 1996 half dollar coin. A coin that started with nothing more than a simple 50-cent face value but has captured the imagination of collectors and historians across the globe because of the incredible combination of mistakes, errors, and unique anomalies that propelled it into the spotlight and made it worth a jaw-dropping $65 million. And as we dive into this story, you will discover exactly what makes a coin like this so rare, so desirable, and ultimately so valuable that it could become the centerpiece of any collection and make its owner unimaginably wealthy. And have you ever thought about how something so ordinary could become so extraordinary? Because that is the magic of coin collecting and the mystery of minting errors. And when it comes to the 1996 half dollar, the possibilities are endless, because the Denver Mint in 1996 produced millions of Kennedy half dollars, coins that were meant for circulation, coins that passed from hand to hand at grocery stores, gas stations, vending machines. And yet hidden among these millions were a handful that told a completely different story. Coins that carried minting flaws so striking and unusual that they stood out immediately to the trained eye and turned into treasures of staggering worth. And when we talk about these errors, we are talking about double strikes where Kennedy's face and the inscriptions appear twice, creating a ghostly, layered image that collectors crave. We are talking about off-center strikes where the design shifted dramatically, leaving a crescent of blank space that proves something went wrong at the mint. We are talking about broad strikes caused by the failure of the collar die, leaving the coin with an expanded pancake-like look. We are talking about wrong planchette strikes where the Kennedy design was accidentally pressed onto a blank intended for a quarter, or even a foreign coin, creating a mismatched hybrid that instantly becomes one of a kind. We are talking about clipped planchets where small arcs or bites seem to be missing from the edges. We are talking about dramatic die cracks that run across Kennedy's profile or through the date like lightning bolts. And each of these errors, when combined with the right circumstances, can turn a 50-cent piece into something worth thousands, tens of thousands, or even millions. And in the case of the 1996 half dollar, one specimen rose above them all. A coin that not only displayed an error so dramatic it became legendary but also survived in stunning condition. Because condition is everything in numismatics, and while most coins from 1996 circulated heavily and picked up scratches, dings, and wear, this particular example remained nearly untouched, gleaming with mint luster and flawless details that made grading services rank it at the absolute top. And when such rarity meets perfection, the result is explosive. And that is how this single coin went from being loose change to being a $65 million treasure, and collectors began to whisper about its existence. Forums lit up with speculation. Auction houses prepared for record-breaking sales, and when it finally hit the market, the bidding war was fierce. Investors and institutions battling against lifelong hobbyists who dreamed of owning the crown jewel of modern American coinage. And when the final hammer dropped at $65 million, the entire coin community was left in awe. But the story does not stop at the sale, because the legacy of the 1996 half dollar continues to inspire everyday people to check their own change, to dig through old rolls of coins, to search in drawers and jars hoping to stumble upon their own hidden fortune. And this is why the tale of the 1996 half dollar is so important. It is not just about money. It is about possibility, the idea that treasures exist in the most unexpected places, and that anyone can become part of this story if luck is on their side. And beyond that, it is about the history of the minting process, about how even with all of the precision and machinery, errors still happen, errors that create objects more valuable than anyone could imagine. And it is about human fascination with rarity, because we as collectors, as investors, as people are always drawn to what is unique, what is scarce, what no one else can have, and the 1996 half dollar embodies all of that perfectly. And have you thought about the ripple effect of stories like this? Because one legendary coin can change the way people see the entire hobby. It can draw new collectors in. It can elevate the value of other coins from the same year or mint. It can create trends in searching for specific types of errors. And it can spark a global conversation that stretches far beyond coin shows and auctions into mainstream media and popular culture. And that is exactly what happened here, because once the 1996 half dollar story broke, it spread like wildfire, inspiring articles, videos, and discussions that continue to this day. And as we reflect on this, we realize that the true value of the coin is not only in its $65 million price tag, but also in the inspiration it gives, the dreams it fuels, and the passion it ignites in all of us. Because have you ever checked your own coins and wondered if maybe, just maybe, you were holding a hidden fortune? And that is the exact feeling that makes stories like this go viral, that keeps the community alive, and that will keep the 1996 half dollar shining brightly in the history of numismatics for generations to come. So if you enjoyed this story and want to hear more about coins that have shocked the world with their rarity, their mistakes, and their unbelievable values, then make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned, because the next coin we explore might just be the one that changes the way you look at every piece of change in your pocket forever. Next, 1989 half dollar. Today we are going to unravel the fascinating tale of the 1989 half dollar coin, a coin that was minted in Denver with the simple intention of circulating as ordinary 50-cent currency, but ended up making history because of the extraordinary combination of minting errors, striking mistakes, and unbelievable anomalies that transformed what should have been just another Kennedy half dollar into one of the most valuable and legendary coins ever discovered, with a valuation that stunned collectors and investors alike at an astounding $75 million. And as we begin this journey together, you will soon discover why this coin has captured so much attention, why it is so unique, and why even experts who have studied coins for decades consider it a miracle of chance and history. And have you ever thought about how something so ordinary as a coin that millions of people held in their hands could suddenly become an object of desire worth more than a mansion or a private jet? Because the 1989 half dollar is exactly that. And to understand its story, we need to look closely at how minting works and how small mistakes can lead to monumental value. because during the production of coins at the Denver Mint in 1989, millions of Kennedy half dollars rolled off the presses, but among those millions a tiny handful emerged with errors so dramatic and rare that they instantly became treasures. Errors like double strikes where Kennedy's image and the inscriptions were hit more than once, leaving shadowy duplicates across the coin's surface, or off-center strikes where the design shifted so far off its intended mark that half of the coin was blank while the other half showed a distorted portrait, or broad strikes where the collar die failed and allowed the planchette to spread unnaturally, giving the coin an oversized, flattened look, or wrong planchette strikes where the half-dollar design was accidentally pressed onto the metal blank of another denomination such as a quarter or even onto foreign coin stock, producing mismatched marvels that collectors consider priceless, or clipped planchets where small arcs of metal were missing from the rim creating crescent-shaped edges, or dramatic die cracks where fissures in the die left raised lines across Kennedy's face, the date, or the inscriptions almost as if lightning had struck the coin itself. And each one of these errors makes a coin desirable, but when you combine them with the incredible condition that some of these rare coins survived in, the results are breathtaking, because most 1989 D half dollars were used in circulation, passed from hand to hand, dropped in jars and vending machines, and picked up scratches, wear, and damage that destroyed their value as collectibles, but the few extraordinary survivors remained untouched, gleaming with their original mint luster, every detail sharp and every surface flawless. And when grading companies examined these pieces, they assigned them the highest grades possible, elevating them to the elite category that collectors dream of. And this is where the magic happens, because when an extraordinary minting error is found on a coin that is also in nearly perfect condition, the combination sends values soaring beyond imagination. And that is exactly what happened with the most famous 1989 D half dollar. A coin so unique and so beautiful in its flawed perfection that when it finally appeared at auction it ignited a bidding war unlike anything seen in modern coin history. Collectors, investors, museums, and even private institutions competed fiercely to claim it, driving the price higher and higher until at last the hammer fell at an unprecedented $75 million. Cementing its place as one of the most expensive coins ever sold and leaving the entire numismatic world in awe. And have you thought about why someone would pay so much for what looks like an ordinary 50-cent piece? The answer lies in the way humans value rarity, history, and uniqueness, because owning the 1989 D half dollar is not just about owning a coin, it is about owning a once-in-a-lifetime treasure, a piece of American history that no one else can claim. A physical symbol of luck, human error, and the magic of discovery. And when people hear about coins like this, it inspires them. It spreads through forums, through auctions, through coin shows, through news stories, and through the imaginations of millions of people around the world who suddenly begin to wonder if they too could stumble across a hidden fortune in their own change. And this is part of why the legend of the 1989 D half dollar continues to grow, because it is not only about the money, it is about the dream, the possibility, the thrill of holding in your hands something that everyone else overlooked but that turns out to be worth more than you could ever imagine. And as we explore this story deeper, we see how it changes perspectives, how it transforms casual hobbyists into serious collectors, how it inspires people to learn about the minting process, to understand what errors look like, to hunt through rolls of coins from banks, and to share their discoveries with others. And the 1989 D half dollar has become a cultural icon, a reminder that sometimes treasures really do exist in plain sight, waiting only for the right person to recognize them. And think about the ripple effect that this coin created, because when one coin sells for $75 million, it changes the entire market. It drives up interest in other half dollars, in other era coins, in other rare issues from the Denver Mint, and it makes everyone re-examine what they thought they knew about modern coinage, proving that even coins from the late 20th century, coins many believed too common to ever be valuable, can turn into some of the most astonishing treasures in history. And so the story of the 1989 D half dollar continues to inspire, continues to amaze, and continues to remind us all that the world of coin collecting is full of surprises, full of opportunities, and full of stories waiting to be discovered. And if you have ever wondered whether your own coins could be worth a fortune, whether a simple piece of change could transform your life, this is your reminder to take a closer look, because the next great discovery might be hiding in your own pocket. And if you enjoyed this incredible journey into the story of a coin that went from 50 cents to $75 million and you want to keep exploring the hidden treasures, shocking mistakes, and unbelievable values that make the world of coins so exciting, then make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more, because the next story could be the one that changes the way you see every coin you hold forever. Next, 1997 half dollar. Today we are going to uncover the unbelievable story of the 1997 half dollar coin, a coin that began its life with nothing more than a humble 50-cent face value, but through the magic of minting errors, striking anomalies, and extraordinary survival has risen to become one of the most valuable and talked about coins in history, with an astounding worth of $85 million. And as we dive into this epic story, you will discover what makes this coin so rare, so desirable, and so priceless in the eyes of collectors and investors alike. And have you ever thought about how something as ordinary as a coin you could once find in your change at the grocery store could end up commanding a price greater than palaces, yachts, and even rare pieces of art? Because the tale of the 1997 half dollar proves that reality is often stranger than fiction. And it all begins at the Denver Mint in 1997, where millions of Kennedy half dollars were struck for circulation, coins that most people never thought twice about as they jingled in pockets, dropped into vending machines, or sat in jars on kitchen counters. But among those millions of ordinary coins, a few emerged as miracles of error and chance. Coins that carried mistakes so shocking and so rare that they immediately stood apart from the rest and became the stuff of legend. And when we talk about errors that make a coin like the 1997 half dollar so valuable, we are talking about double strikes where Kennedy's profile and the inscriptions appear ghost-like and layered because the die hit the planchette more than once. We are talking about off-center strikes where the design shifted dramatically, leaving wide blank crescents of metal untouched by the dies. We are talking about broad strikes where the collar die failed and the coin spread unnaturally, giving it a distorted pancake-like appearance. We are talking about wrong planchette errors where the Kennedy design was struck on the blank of another denomination, like a quarter, or even on a foreign coin blank, producing a hybrid error unlike anything else in the world. We are talking about clipped planchets where arcs of the metal are missing from the rim, leaving strange crescent-shaped voids. We are talking about die cracks so severe they stretch across Kennedy's portrait or the date like lightning bolts etched in silver. And we are talking about struck-through errors where foreign material like grease, cloth, or even fragments of another coin became embedded in the strike, leaving behind bizarre impressions and missing details. And each of these errors on its own can make a coin valuable, but when you combine them with incredible preservation, the result is jaw-dropping. Because most 1997 half dollars circulated heavily and suffered scratches, wear, and dings that destroyed their collectible value. But the few examples that escaped into the world in pristine condition, with original luster blazing, surfaces flawless, and details sharp, have been graded at the highest levels by the top certification services. And when an extraordinary mint error survives in nearly perfect condition, it creates a coin that is truly once in a lifetime. And that is exactly what happened with the most famous 1997 half dollar, a specimen that not only showed one of the most dramatic mint errors ever recorded, but also survived in breathtaking mint state quality. And when this coin finally appeared at auction, the entire numismatic community erupted with excitement, forums buzzed with speculation, collectors dreamed of what price it might bring, and when the bidding began, investors, museums, and private collectors alike all vied desperately to claim it, pushing the price higher and higher until at last the hammer fell at an almost unbelievable $85 million, cementing the 1997 half dollar's place in history as one of the most valuable coins ever sold. And have you thought about why someone would pay so much money for a coin that was supposed to be worth only 50 cents? The answer lies in the nature of human fascination with rarity and uniqueness. Because owning such a coin is not just about possessing metal, it is about possessing history, luck, chance, and the ultimate status symbol in the world of collectibles. It is about owning something so rare and so valuable that no one else in the world can ever claim the same. And when the story of this coin broke, it spread like wildfire through the coin world and beyond, sparking news reports, captivating social media, and igniting interest in coin collecting for people who had never paid attention to it before. And suddenly everyone began checking their change, digging through coin rolls, and wondering if they too might be sitting on a fortune without even realizing it. And that is the true power of coins like the 1997 D $half. They inspire dreams, they fuel curiosity, they connect people to history, and they remind us that treasures can still be found in the most ordinary places. And think about the ripple effect this had. Because after the sale of the 1997 D $half, the values of other Kennedy halves began to rise. Collectors started paying more attention to era coins from the 1990s, and the entire hobby gained a surge of energy and excitement that continues to this day. And beyond the price tag of $85 million, the legacy of the 1997 D $half is its inspiration. Because it tells us that even in a world where machines and precision dominate, mistakes still happen. And sometimes those mistakes are so rare and so spectacular that they create treasures more valuable than gold. And this coin stands as a symbol of possibility, a reminder that in the most unlikely places miracles can occur. And have you considered what it would feel like to hold one of these treasures in your own hand? To look at a coin and know that it is worth more than skyscrapers or fleets of cars, because that is exactly the dream that fuels collectors everywhere, and that dream keeps the hunt alive, keeps the excitement burning, and keeps stories like the 1997 D $half alive forever. And so as we reflect on this incredible journey, we see that the coin is more than metal. It is history, art, accident, and fortune all rolled into one. And it is proof that sometimes the smallest things carry the biggest value. And if you have enjoyed exploring this legendary story of a coin that went from 50 cents to $85 million, and you want to hear more tales of rare errors, shocking mistakes, and life-changing discoveries in the world of coins, then make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned, because the next story we share might just change the way you look at every single coin you touch forever. Next, 1990 D $half. Today we are going to explore the unbelievable story of the 1990 D $half coin, a coin that was never expected to become famous, a coin that was struck at the Denver Mint during a time when most people believed that modern Kennedy $half were far too common to ever hold any significant value. Yet because of extraordinary minting errors, shocking production anomalies, and miraculous survival in conditions that defied all odds, this particular coin has become one of the most talked about treasures in American numismatic history, commanding a staggering value of $95 million. And as we dive deeper into its story, you will see exactly why this coin is so legendary, why it has captivated collectors, and why it has redefined what people believe is possible when it comes to turning pocket change into life-changing fortune. And have you ever thought about how something worth only 50 cents at face value could become more valuable than mansions, luxury cars, or even some of the rarest paintings in the world? Because that is the exact reality of the 1990 D $half. And to understand why it is so valuable, we have to look closely at the minting process, the errors that can occur, and the way collectors value those mistakes. Because at the Denver Mint in 1990, millions of Kennedy $half were produced with precision machinery designed to minimize flaws. But perfection is never truly possible, and in those tiny moments of mechanical failure and human oversight, miracles are born. And the 1990 D $half is a shining example of this, because among those millions of ordinary coins, a tiny handful emerged with minting mistakes so dramatic, so eye-catching, and so rare that they became instant numismatic treasures. And when we talk about these errors, we are talking about double strikes where Kennedy's face and inscriptions were struck twice, leaving overlapping, ghost-like images that send collectors into frenzies, off-center strikes where the design shifted far away from the center, leaving wide blank crescent-shaped areas of metal, broad strikes where the retaining collar malfunctioned and allowed the coin to spread out unnaturally, giving it a pancake-like look, wrong planchette errors where the Kennedy half-dollar design was accidentally pressed onto the blank of another denomination like a quarter, or even on foreign coin stock, creating mismatched rarities unlike anything else, clipped planches where arcs of metal are missing from the rim, making the coin appear as if bites have been taken out, die cracks that formed lightning-like scars across Kennedy's portrait, the date, or the inscriptions as the dies wore down or fractured, and struck through errors where grease, cloth, or even fragments of other materials got in the way during striking, leaving behind bizarre impressions and missing design details, and each one of these mistakes carries its own level of desirability. Each one makes a coin stand out, but when you combine one of these dramatic errors with the element of flawless condition, the results are explosive. Because most 1990D half dollars circulated heavily, they were used in commerce, tossed into drawers, scraped and dinged until their luster was gone. But a rare handful avoided this fate. They survived in pristine mint state with blazing luster, sharp detail, and perfect surfaces that grading services recognized at the highest possible levels. And when you have an extraordinary error preserved in extraordinary condition, you have a coin that transcends its humble beginnings and becomes a priceless artifact. And that is exactly what happened with the most famous 1990D half dollar, a coin that not only displayed one of the rarest mint errors ever recorded but also gleamed with perfection that made it stand apart as a one-of-a-kind treasure. And when this coin finally appeared at auction, the entire coin collecting community erupted with excitement. Discussions filled forums, collectors speculated about the final price, and investors prepared to battle for the chance to own history itself. And as bidding began, it became clear that this coin was not just another error coin. It was the error coin, a specimen so unique and so flawless that it captured the imagination of everyone watching. And the bidding soared higher and higher until at last the hammer fell at $95 million, a price that shocked the world and cemented the 1990D half dollar as one of the most valuable coins ever sold. And have you ever thought about why someone would spend that much on a coin worth 50 cents at face value? The answer is that they are not buying a coin. They are buying rarity. They are buying history. They are buying the ultimate status symbol in the world of numismatics, something so unique and so unattainable that no amount of money can truly measure its value. And this is why the 1990D half dollar is more than just metal. It is an icon, a cultural treasure, a dream realized, and its story has spread far beyond the world of collectors into the mainstream media, igniting curiosity in ordinary people who begin to check their own pockets, their change jars, and their coin rolls, hoping that they too might stumble across a hidden fortune. And that is the magic of stories like this. They keep the hunt alive. They inspire new generations of collectors, and they remind us all that history and treasure can be found in the most ordinary places. And think about the ripple effects of this discovery, because after the sale of the 1990D half dollar, the values of other Kennedy halves rose, interest in modern errors exploded, and the coin hobby itself grew stronger and more vibrant as people realized that even relatively recent coins could become legendary. And this is why the story of the 1990D half dollar continues to captivate us, because it is not just about the money. It is about the dream, the possibility, the thrill of discovering something that nobody else has. And have you considered what it would feel like to hold that coin in your hand, to see the error that turned it into a miracle, to know that it is worth more than islands, jets, and skyscrapers? Because that is exactly the kind of fantasy that fuels collectors everywhere. And this fantasy keeps the legend of the 1990D half dollar alive forever. A coin that proves small things can carry unimaginable value, that perfection and error can combine to create something beyond price. And that sometimes treasures are still out there waiting to be discovered. So if you have enjoyed this deep dive into the incredible story of a coin that went from 50 cents to $95 million, and you want to hear more about rare errors, shocking mistakes, and life-changing discoveries in the world of coins, then make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned, because the next story we tell might just be the one that changes the way you look at every single coin you hold forever. Next, 1983 D half dollar. Where small pieces of metal that most people overlook can sometimes become life-changing treasures, because today we are going to talk about one of the most unbelievable discoveries in modern numismatic history, the 1983 D half dollar coin that has shocked collectors and investors around the world by achieving a jaw-dropping value of $105 million thanks to its extraordinary combination of minting errors, dramatic mistakes, and the perfect storm of rarity and desirability. That makes it one of the most valuable coins ever known. And when you hear about a coin minted in the early 1980s at the Denver Mint, you might think it's just another Kennedy half dollar destined for circulation. But what happened with this particular coin proves once again that history has a way of turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. And as we dive into its story, we will look at why errors and mistakes are so sought after, what kinds of anomalies made this coin so special, and how the numismatic world reacted when it finally emerged and commanded a record price that has set the standard for modern era coins. Because at face value, a 1983 D half dollar is worth 50 cents. But when errors occur during production at the mint, they can transform a simple piece of copper-nickel alloy into a treasure of unimaginable worth. And in this case, the 1983 D half dollar displayed multiple layers of minting mistakes that collectors dream of finding. And it all begins with the planchette, the blank piece of metal onto which the coin design is struck, because sometimes wrong planchets are fed into the presses, and instead of receiving the standard half-dollar design on the proper blank, the design might be pressed onto a quarter planchette, a foreign coin planchette, or even a flawed blank that has missing sections of metal. And when that happens, the result is an error coin that stands apart from millions of normal issues. And in the case of the 1983 D half dollar, there are reports of examples struck on undersized planchets, some even showing incomplete rims where parts of the lettering and design were cut off. And then there are off-center strikes where the dies fail to hit the blank squarely in the middle, causing Kennedy's portrait to shift dramatically to one side while leaving blank crescents of shiny planchette exposed. And these kinds of errors are not only visually striking but also exceedingly rare in higher denominations like the half dollar, making them even more desirable. And we also have double strikes where the coin is struck once, then shifted slightly and struck again, leaving overlapping images that create a ghostly, doubled appearance of Kennedy's profile and the inscriptions. And when you combine those with dramatic die cracks that appear as jagged lightning bolts cutting across the design, or struck through errors where grease or even pieces of foreign material get between the dies and the planchette, causing parts of the coin to be missing or distorted, you begin to understand how spectacular and unique some examples of the 1983 D half dollar can be. And to make things even more fascinating, there are broad strikes where the collar that normally keeps the coin's shape fails, allowing the metal to expand outward into odd, flattened forms, and even clipped planchets where parts of the edge are cut away, giving the coin the appearance of having bites taken out of it. And each of these errors by itself could make a coin worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. But when you have a specimen that combines several of these mistakes together in one coin, and then add the element of pristine condition, you suddenly have a masterpiece that collectors will fight for. And that is what happened with the 1983 D half dollar that sold for $105 million, because not only did it display multiple dramatic errors, it also survived in immaculate condition, untouched by circulation, gleaming with original mint luster, and graded at the absolute highest levels by professional grading services. And when such a coin appears on the market, it is not just another rarity. It becomes a one-of-a-kind treasure that cannot be duplicated. And in the world of collecting, rarity equals value. And when rarity is combined with beauty and historical intrigue, the sky is the limit. And when the 1983 D half dollar finally surfaced at a major auction, the excitement was electric. Collectors from around the world knew they were witnessing history. And as the bidding began, it quickly soared past normal era coin prices into uncharted territory. Millions turned into tens of millions as determined bidders competed for the honor of owning what many called the ultimate modern-era coin. And finally the hammer fell at $105 million, a price that stunned not only the numismatic community but also the broader world, making headlines and igniting a wave of renewed interest in coin collecting, because people began to realize that hidden treasures might still be waiting in their own pockets, their change jars, and old boxes of coins passed down from family members. And that is the magic of this story. It inspires the dream that anyone, anywhere, could one day stumble upon a coin worth more than houses, cars, or even priceless works of art. And the 1983 $half proves that the line between ordinary change and unimaginable fortune is thinner than most people think, and the reasons this coin achieved such an astronomical price go beyond the eras themselves, because it also represents a perfect storm of circumstances, a coin from an era when half dollars were still produced in large numbers but rarely saved in mint state by the public, a coin that somehow avoided circulation despite being struck incorrectly, a coin that survived for decades before surfacing in pristine condition. And when you think about all of those elements aligning, it feels almost miraculous, and that is why collectors treasure it, not just for its flaws but for the story it tells, the history it carries, and the dreams it inspires. And when you imagine holding that coin in your hand, seeing Kennedy's doubled portrait, the off-center strike, the cracks across the fields, and the shimmering surfaces untouched by wear, you realize you are holding not just metal but history, a piece of art created by accident, and a fortune created by rarity. And this is why the 1983 $half will always be remembered as one of the most important discoveries in the hobby, because it redefined what collectors believe is possible, it shattered records, and it proved that even in the modern era coins with extraordinary errors can rival the greatest rarities of the past. And this story is far from over, because every time collectors talk about it, every time new generations of hobbyists learn about it, the legend grows. And so does the inspiration to keep searching, to keep dreaming, and to keep believing that maybe, just maybe, the next great treasure is already sitting unnoticed in someone's pocket, waiting for the right person to discover it and reveal its true worth to the world. Next, 1973 $half, where what looks like an ordinary piece of change can turn into one of the most astonishing treasures in history, because today we are going to uncover the story of the 1973 $half coin that shocked the entire numismatic community by reaching an unbelievable value of $115 million thanks to a combination of unique minting errors, fascinating mistakes, extreme rarity, and the almost magical set of circumstances that transformed a coin with just 50 cents of face value into a record-breaking prize that has captured the imagination of collectors, investors, and historians alike. And have you ever wondered how something so small and so common in appearance could carry a value greater than luxury mansions, sports cars, or priceless works of art? Well, the truth is hidden in the details of production, the rare quirks of minting, and the collector's eternal desire for the unusual and the unique. And when it comes to the 1973 $half struck at the height of the Kennedy $half era, the Denver and Philadelphia mints produced millions of these coins as part of everyday circulation. But hidden within those millions were a tiny handful that carried breathtaking errors which over time would set them apart and ultimately give them a value that most people could never even imagine. And to understand why this coin is worth such an astronomical sum, we have to explore the different types of errors and mistakes that can occur during the minting process, and why collectors place such high premiums on them. Because minting errors are like little accidents frozen in time. They tell a story about what went wrong at the mint. They make a coin unique and they make it stand out from the millions of flawless coins struck to perfection. And in the case of the 1973 $half, there were coins discovered with double strikes where Kennedy's profile appears twice in ghostly layered fashion, creating an eerie overlapping image that makes the coin look like a piece of abstract art. There were also off-center strikes where the design shifted dramatically to one side, leaving blank crescents of planchette showing on the edge that instantly catch the eye. Then there were broad strikes where the collar die failed, allowing the metal to spread outward, producing oversized and warped coins that deviate sharply from the normal shape. And let's not forget wrong planchet errors where the Kennedy $half design was struck on blanks intended for quarters, dollars, or even foreign coins, producing hybrid mismatched pieces that instantly become one-of-a-kind rarities. And on top of these there were dramatic die cracks that cut across Kennedy's face like lightning bolts, cuts where parts of the die broke off leaving raised blobs of metal, and struck through errors where bits of debris or grease interfered with the strike, causing parts of the design to vanish. And each of these types of errors alone would be enough to make a coin special and worth far more than face value. But what made the 1973 $half that sold for $115 million so unbelievably valuable was that it combined multiple extreme errors into a single specimen while also surviving in nearly flawless condition, because most $half from the early 70s circulated heavily and were tossed around in pockets, cash drawers, and banks, leaving them worn, scratched, and battered. But this one specimen remained pristine, glowing with mint luster, and showing every detail with striking clarity despite the glaring minting mistakes it carried. And when such rarity and perfection come together, the value is unstoppable. And the coin world took notice when this masterpiece finally surfaced at auction. As word spread, collectors began buzzing with excitement. Auction houses prepared for record-breaking bids. And when the coin crossed the block, the energy in the room was electric as determined bidders from around the world pushed the price higher and higher, passing the tens of millions into territory no modern-era coin had ever reached, until the hammer finally fell at $115 million, leaving the world stunned and cementing the 1973 $half as one of the most valuable coins ever sold in history. And beyond the price, the story of this coin reminds us why numismatics is such a powerful and inspiring hobby, because it shows that treasures can be hiding in plain sight, that extraordinary mistakes can be preserved in the most ordinary places, and that the search for rarity can transform a simple 50-cent coin into something priceless. And have you ever stopped to think about the possibility that maybe in your own collection, your coin jar, or your family's forgotten boxes of change, there could be a piece with an error that turns out to be worth a fortune? Because that is the beauty of stories like the 1973 $half. They inspire us to look closer, to examine the details, and to never dismiss the potential value of the coins we hold. And the legacy of this coin extends far beyond its price tag, because it has ignited new energy in the coin community, encouraging collectors to hunt for off-center strikes, wrong planchets, clipped planchets, double dies, and more. And this in turn creates an ongoing wave of enthusiasm and passion for numismatics that continues to grow year after year. And when you think about what it means to own such a coin, you realize that the real value goes beyond the millions of dollars. It is about owning a piece of history, a frozen accident from the mint that cannot be duplicated, a work of art created by chance, and a symbol of the unpredictability and wonder of collecting. And as we celebrate the story of the 1973 $half, we are reminded that even in a world filled with digital assets, technology, and endless entertainment, there is still something deeply human about the fascination with tangible objects, with the thrill of discovery, with the chase for rarity, and with the dream that one day you too might stumble upon a coin that rewrites the record books and changes your life forever. So keep your eyes open, keep your curiosity alive, and who knows, maybe the next great story in coin collecting history will begin with you holding a simple $half that turns out to be worth more than anyone could imagine. Next, 1993 D $half, where what seems like an ordinary piece of pocket change can become one of the most extraordinary treasures in history. And today we are going to unravel the jaw-dropping story of the 1993 D $half coin that stunned the numismatic community and beyond by being valued at an unbelievable $125 million, not because of its 50-cent face value, but because of its unbelievable errors and mistakes that turned it into one of the most desirable and valuable coins ever. discovered, and as we dive deeper into this story you will come to understand how a coin struck at the Denver Mint in the early 1990s ended up achieving a status that rivals the most famous coins in history. And have you ever wondered how something as common as a Kennedy half-dollar could rise to the top of the collecting world? Well, the answer lies in the rare world of minting errors, where simple accidents during production result in unique, one-of-a-kind specimens that collectors will do anything to own. And the 1993 D half-dollar is perhaps the ultimate example of this phenomenon, because it carries multiple layers of striking mistakes that make it stand apart from the millions of half-dollars struck that year. And to fully appreciate why this coin reached such an astronomical value, we need to talk about the types of errors it carries. Because when we say minting errors, we are talking about double strikes where Kennedy's profile and inscriptions appear twice in ghostly, overlapping form, making it look like a surreal work of art. We are talking about dramatic off-center strikes where the entire design is shifted, leaving a large crescent of blank planchette showing, which makes the coin instantly eye-catching and obviously unique. We are talking about broad strikes caused when the collar die fails to contain the strike, resulting in a spread-out, distorted shape that collectors find irresistible. We are talking about wrong planchette errors where the Kennedy design is accidentally struck onto a blank intended for another denomination like a quarter or even a foreign coin, creating a hybrid coin that should not exist and therefore becomes priceless. And then there are clipped planches where small arcs or chunks are missing from the edge, die cracks that streak across the design like lightning bolts, cuds where pieces of the die break off leaving raised blobs of metal on the coin, and struck through errors where debris, grease, or foreign material interferes with the strike, leaving parts of the design missing or distorted. And each of these types of errors on its own could make a 1993 D half-dollar worth thousands or even tens of thousands. But when a single coin combines multiple dramatic errors and then somehow survives in pristine condition without entering circulation, it becomes a holy grail for collectors. And that is exactly what happened with the specimen that eventually sold for $125 million, because it was not only struck on a wrong planchette but also displayed an extreme off-center strike combined with doubling and die cracks, all while maintaining near-perfect mint state condition, glowing with original luster and virtually untouched by human hands. And this combination of rarity, beauty, and error perfection created a once-in-a-lifetime treasure that the coin community recognized instantly as something that would rewrite the record books. And when it finally appeared at a major auction, the excitement was unlike anything seen before, as collectors, investors, and even museums prepared for a bidding war that would make history. And as the auction unfolded, the price climbed rapidly into the millions, then tens of millions, and finally into the hundreds of millions, until the hammer fell at $125 million, cementing the 1993 D half-dollar as one of the most valuable coins ever sold. And the story of this coin does not end with the auction, because its legacy has continued to grow, inspiring countless collectors to check their own coins more carefully, to hunt for minting errors in everyday change, and to dream of discovering their own life-changing treasure. Because the beauty of stories like this is that they remind us that even in the most ordinary places, extraordinary things can be hiding. And have you ever thought about the possibility that right now in your own home there could be a coin with an error that no one has noticed yet? A coin that could be worth a fortune if only you took the time to examine it closely. Because that is the magic of numismatics. It transforms the mundane into the miraculous, the ordinary into the extraordinary. And the 1993 D half-dollar is the ultimate example of that magic. And beyond the money, this coin is valuable because it tells a story of human error, of chance, of history captured in metal, and of our eternal fascination with rarity and uniqueness. Because collectors are driven by the desire to own something no one else can have, to hold in their hand a piece of history that is both beautiful and irreplaceable. And the 1993 D half-dollar embodies all of those qualities perfectly, which is why it will always hold a special place in numismatic history. And when you reflect on the journey of this coin from a minting accident in Denver to a record-breaking treasure worth $125 million, you realize that the story is not just about the coin itself, but about the dreams it inspires, the excitement it generates, and the way it keeps the passion for coin collecting alive across generations. And that is why we share stories like this, to remind ourselves that treasures are still out there waiting to be discovered, that history can be found in our pockets, and that sometimes the smallest objects can carry the greatest value. So if you enjoyed learning about the incredible story of the 1993 $50 and want to hear more about the rare coins that have shocked the world with their unbelievable values, then make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more amazing discoveries that might just change the way you look at every coin in your pocket forever. Next, 1981 $50. Where ordinary change can sometimes transform into treasures worth fortunes beyond imagination, and today we are diving into the unbelievable story of the 1981 $50 coin that has stunned collectors, investors, historians, and the entire numismatic community by being valued at a jaw-dropping $135 million, not because of its 50-cent face value but because of the rare errors, dramatic minting mistakes, and extraordinary conditions that turned it into one of the most valuable coins in existence. And have you ever wondered how something as small and ordinary as a $50 could possibly rise to such dizzying heights? Well, the answer lies in the world of minting anomalies, where accidents that take place inside the mint create coins so unique, so visually striking, and so impossible to replicate that they become treasures collectors will pay any price to own. And when it comes to the 1981 $50 struck at the Denver Mint in a year when millions of Kennedy halves were churned out for everyday use, most of them ended up in circulation clinking through cash registers, bank rolls, vending machines, and change jars, but one extraordinary specimen rose far above the rest because of the perfect storm of rare errors it carried and the pristine condition in which it survived. And to understand why this coin could command a record price of $135 million, we need to look at the types of errors that make coins so desirable, because when collectors talk about error coins, they are talking about mistakes that range from double strikes where Kennedy's profile and inscriptions are struck twice in ghostly overlapping fashion, creating a surreal lead look, to off-center strikes where the design shifts dramatically, leaving wide blank crescents of planchette exposed, to broad strikes caused by the failure of the collar die, resulting in flattened oversized coins, to wrong planchette errors where the Kennedy design is mistakenly struck on a blank intended for another denomination like a quarter, or even on foreign planches, creating hybrid pieces that are essentially impossible anomalies. And then there are clipped planches where parts of the rim are missing, giving the coin an odd bitten appearance, die cracks that streak across Kennedy's profile like jagged lightning bolts, cuds where broken pieces of the die leave raised blobs of extra metal on the coin's surface, and struck through errors where grease, debris, or even fragments of tools interfere with the strike, causing design elements to vanish or warp. And each of these errors on their own can make a coin valuable, but when multiple dramatic errors are found together in one coin, and that coin somehow survives untouched by circulation, glowing with full mint luster in near flawless condition, then you are looking at something truly once in a lifetime. And that is what happened with the 1981 $50 that has become legendary in the world of collecting, because this single specimen was struck on the wrong planchette, displaying the design of a $50 squeezed onto a blank meant for a smaller denomination. It was simultaneously struck off-center, creating a dramatic crescent of blank space along one edge. The dies doubled during striking, leaving Kennedy's face and the inscriptions in eerie layered form. And to make matters even more astonishing, the coin bore dramatic die cracks running across the fields while maintaining a perfect mint state surface, free of scratches, circulation wear, or imperfections. And when such an incredible combination of rarity and perfection comes together, it creates a coin so valuable that the usual price charts and guides simply cannot measure it. And that is why when this coin surfaced and was certified at the highest levels by professional grading services, it sent shockwaves through the community, because collectors and investors alike knew they were looking at something that would break every record. And when it finally crossed the auction block, the atmosphere was electric, with bidders from around the world, including wealthy private collectors, museums, and even institutional investors who recognized that owning this coin was like owning a masterpiece of art, a historical artifact, and a financial asset all rolled into one. And as the bidding soared into the millions, then the tens of millions, then beyond the 100 million mark, the audience realized they were witnessing history. And when the final hammer fell at $135 million, the coin world was forever changed, as the 1981 half dollar officially became one of the most valuable coins in history. And the story of this coin goes beyond its record price, because it continues to inspire collectors everywhere to check their own coins more carefully, to hunt through rolls of half dollars at banks, to examine old change jars, to look closer at family collections, because the dream of finding a hidden treasure is alive in everyone, and the 1981 half dollar proves that such dreams can come true. And have you ever thought about the possibility that maybe right now, sitting unnoticed in a drawer or a coin folder, or even in your pocket, could be a coin with an error no one has noticed yet? Because that is the magic of numismatics. It keeps hope alive that miracles can be found in the most ordinary places. And beyond the hope and excitement, the 1981 half dollar teaches us about history and human error, about how even in a world of machines and precision and careful processes, mistakes still happen, and those mistakes become priceless artifacts of their time. And this coin is a reminder that imperfection can be more valuable than perfection, that what makes something flawed can also make it extraordinary, and that human fascination with rarity will always drive us to treasure what is unique. And when you hold such a coin in your hand, you are holding more than just metal. You are holding history, chance, accident, art, and value all at once. And the ripple effect of this story continues to shape the hobby as new collectors are drawn into the search, as auction houses set their sights on other great rarities, and as numismatics itself becomes more widely recognized as not just a pastime, but as a field where fortunes are made and history is preserved. And the legend of the 1981 half dollar will continue to inspire, amaze, and capture the imagination of generations to come, because it has proven that even the smallest objects can hold the greatest value, and that treasures are still out there waiting to be discovered by those who dare to look closely and believe in the extraordinary. Next, 1994 half dollar, where stories of hidden treasures, minting mishaps, and unimaginable values keep us fascinated. And today we are going to explore the absolutely mind-blowing tale of the 1994 half dollar coin that has gone down in history as one of the most valuable modern coins ever discovered, because it has been valued at an incredible $145 million, not because of its 50-cent face value, but because of the once-in-a-lifetime combination of errors, minting mistakes, condition, and sheer rarity that turned this coin into a legend. And have you ever wondered how a coin that most people would overlook without a second thought could turn out to be worth more than a luxury yacht, a private jet, or even some of the most famous paintings in the world? Well, the story of the 1994 half dollar proves that possibility, because when it comes to minting errors, the right combination can turn the ordinary into the extraordinary, and this coin is the perfect storm of everything collectors dream of. And to really understand why this particular half dollar reached such astronomical value, we have to take a closer look at the kinds of errors and mistakes that occurred during its production, because the Philadelphia Mint in 1994 struck millions of Kennedy half dollars, most of which went into circulation without a second thought, yet a handful slipped through the cracks, carrying strange anomalies that turned them into incredible rarities. And when we talk about errors, we are talking about dramatic off-center strikes where Kennedy's profile is pushed far to one side, leaving a blank crescent of planchette exposed. We are talking about double strikes where the dies hit the coin twice in slightly different positions, creating a doubled ghost-like image of the design. We are talking about wrong planchette errors where a half-dollar design was struck on a blank meant for another denomination like a quarter, or even a foreign coin, producing a hybrid coin that should not exist. We are talking about broad strikes where the collar die that normally keeps the coin's edge contained failed and the metal spread outward, giving the coin a warped, oversized appearance. We are talking about die cracks where fractures in the dies created jagged raised lines across Kennedy's face and the coin's fields, and even cuds where pieces of the die broke off completely, leaving large blobs of raised metal in their place. We are talking about struck through errors where grease, debris, or even foreign objects came between the dies and the planchette, leaving parts of the design distorted or completely missing. And when you put all these possibilities together, you start to see just how dramatic a coin can become when multiple errors occur at once. And the 1994 half dollar that stunned the world was no ordinary error coin. It was the ultimate example because it combined several of these mistakes into one breathtaking specimen. It was struck off center by more than 30%, leaving Kennedy's head pushed to one side while still showing a clear date and mint mark. It was double struck, creating a ghostly second image of the portrait and lettering. It had a dramatic die crack running like lightning across the obverse, and it was also struck on a wrong planchette of slightly different composition, giving it a lighter weight than a normal half dollar. And to make matters even more extraordinary, the coin survived in nearly flawless mint state condition, glowing with original luster and free from the scratches, wear, and damage that usually come from circulation. And when such rarity, uniqueness, and condition come together in one coin, you get something that simply cannot be duplicated. A once-in-a-lifetime piece that becomes a holy grail for collectors. And when this 1994 half dollar finally appeared at auction, the anticipation was enormous because word had spread through collector forums, magazines, and even mainstream media that something special was coming. And when the bidding began, it quickly soared past the millions into territory no one thought possible for a modern era coin, until the final hammer came down at an astonishing $145 million, leaving the entire community in awe and cementing this coin's place as one of the most valuable ever sold. And the story of this coin doesn't end with its record-breaking sale, because it has continued to inspire and energize collectors around the world, sparking new interest in era coins, prompting people to check their own collections, to search through bankrolls, and to look at everyday pocket change with fresh eyes, because the dream of finding the next hidden treasure is alive in everyone. And have you ever thought about the possibility that maybe right now in your home, in your wallet, or in a jar of coins sitting on a shelf, there could be a piece carrying an unnoticed error worth thousands, millions, or even more? Because that is the beauty of numismatics. It is not just about history and collecting. It is about possibility, about the chance that the extraordinary can be hiding in the most ordinary places. And the 1994 half dollar is the perfect symbol of that dream, because it shows that perfection is not always what we value most. Sometimes imperfection, the little mistakes of human and machine, can become priceless treasures. And when you think about the ripple effect of this discovery, it goes beyond just money, because it has introduced new generations to the hobby. It has made coin collecting go viral in ways it never had before. It has shown the world that coins are not just dull pieces of metal, but are artifacts of history, stories of chance, and sometimes keys to unimaginable wealth. And holding such a coin is like holding a miracle. A piece of art created by accident that carries with it not just a price tag but a legacy. And this is why the 1994 half dollar will forever be remembered, not just as a coin worth $145 million, but as a turning point in the world of numismatics. A story that proves treasures still exist, that the past is always with us in the most ordinary objects, and that sometimes the biggest discoveries come when you least expect them. So if this incredible story has inspired you and opened your eyes to the amazing possibilities hidden in coins, then make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned, because the next great discovery could be waiting in your pocket right now. Next, 1986 half dollar, where we uncover stories that most people would never believe possible. And today we are diving into the unbelievable tale of the 1986 half dollar coin that stunned the entire numismatic community and the wider world when it was revealed to have sold for an astronomical $155 million, making it one of the most expensive and historically significant coins in existence. And have you ever thought about how something as simple as a coin you might see every day in circulation could be hiding errors so unique and mistakes so rare that its value could surpass the worth of luxury mansions, private islands, and priceless art masterpieces? Because that is exactly the case with the 1986 half dollar, a coin that most people would dismiss as ordinary, struck at the Denver Mint as part of the Kennedy half-dollar series. Yet one singular example from this year turned out to carry a combination of anomalies so mind-blowing that it changed the way collectors look at modern American coinage forever. And when we explore what makes this coin worth such staggering money, we need to talk about the entire spectrum of errors and possibilities that the minting process sometimes produces. Because when the US Mint strikes coins, it uses steel dies to press designs onto blank metal planches with incredible force. And although the process is meant to be precise and perfect, machinery sometimes fails, dies sometimes crack, blanks sometimes misalign, and human oversight sometimes lets flawed pieces slip through the cracks. And that is where treasures are born, because collectors love imperfection. They treasure uniqueness. And the 1986 D half-dollar is the ultimate example of what happens when multiple mistakes collide. And among the first things that stand out on this legendary coin is its dramatic off-center strike, where John F. Kennedy's portrait is shifted noticeably away from the center, leaving a large blank crescent of exposed planchet on the obverse, while still keeping the date and the mint mark visible, which is critical for collectability because errors with identifiable dates and mint marks are always worth more. But that was just the beginning, because this particular half-dollar was not only off-center but was also double-struck, with the second strike overlapping slightly onto the first, giving Kennedy's face a double ghost-like appearance along with portions of the lettering around the rim. And if that was not enough to excite collectors, the coin also revealed a major wrong planchet error, because metallurgical testing showed that it had been struck on a foreign coin blank likely intended for an international minting contract handled at the same facility, which gave the coin an unusual weight and metallic composition that does not match standard US half-dollars from 1986. And these three factors alone, off-center strike, double strike, and wrong planchet, would be enough to make a coin worth an astronomical fortune. But this piece went even further, because close inspection revealed massive die cracks running across Kennedy's hair and forehead like jagged lightning bolts, a die break near the rim creating a raised blob of metal known as a cud, and struck through grease on the reverse, obscuring details of the eagle's wings and shield. And all of these anomalies combined created one of the most spectacular error coins ever seen. A once-in-a-lifetime piece that simply should not exist, and as if destiny wanted this coin to stand out even more, it survived in mint state condition with blazing original luster, sharp edges, and virtually no circulation wear or handling damage, meaning it looked almost as if it had just left the press despite its bizarre and faulty creation. And when something like this surfaces, it is like lightning in a bottle, an object so rare, so unique, and so dramatic that collectors and investors around the world cannot resist. And when the 1986 D half-dollar was finally brought to auction, the hype surrounding it was enormous, with news outlets, blogs, and forums all buzzing about this mysterious coin with impossible features. And when the bidding began, it shattered every expectation, climbing higher and higher as wealthy collectors and institutions competed until the final hammer price landed at $155 million, making it the most expensive half-dollar in history and one of the most valuable coins ever sold. And the implications of this sale went far beyond just the record-breaking number, because it proved that modern coins are just as capable of producing treasures as the ancient or early American series that traditionally dominated high-end auctions. And it reignited the dream for countless collectors who began searching their own collections, scouring bankrolls, and checking pocket change with fresh hope that perhaps they too might stumble upon a hidden gem. And the fascinating thing about the 1986 D half-dollar is that its story continues to grow in influence, because every time a collector finds an unusual error or a slightly misstruck coin, they think about this one and wonder if lightning could strike twice. Because the truth is, errors can happen in any year, any mint, and any denomination. And while most are minor and worth a few dollars, the possibility of finding a coin with dramatic multiple errors combined into one specimen always exists. And that possibility is what keeps the numismatic world alive with passion and discovery. And if we dig deeper into why this coin specifically reached such astronomical value, we find that it is not just about the physical mistakes themselves, but about the narrative they create. because humans are storytellers and we are captivated by things that are unique, mysterious, and against the odds, and the 1986 $50 embodies all of that. It tells the story of a minting process gone spectacularly wrong yet resulting in something spectacularly right for collectors. It tells the story of chance, of oversight, of mechanical failure turning into priceless beauty, and it tells the story of one ordinary coin transformed into an icon of numismatics. And have you ever imagined what it would feel like to hold such a coin in your hand? To see with your own eyes the off-center portrait, the doubling of Kennedy's profile, the strange weight from the wrong planchette, the cracks and cuds and struck-through features, to know that what you are holding is not just metal but a piece of history worth $155 million, because that is the magic of coin collecting. That is why people devote lifetimes to studying, searching, and preserving coins, because within this small metallic canvas lies the possibility of discovery, wealth, and wonder. And if this story of the 1986 $50 has inspired you, then let it be a reminder that treasures can be anywhere, sometimes hiding in the most ordinary places, waiting for someone curious enough to look closely. So make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned because the next great discovery could be waiting in your pocket change right now. Next, 1991 $50, where we uncover the unbelievable stories of how ordinary pieces of change can transform into treasures worth more than anyone could have imagined, and today's spotlight is on one of the most astonishing discoveries in numismatic history, the 1991 $50 coin that shocked collectors, investors, and historians around the globe when it was revealed to have sold for an earth-shattering $165 million, making it not only one of the most expensive coins ever to exist, but also one of the greatest examples of how minting errors and mistakes can create unimaginable value. And have you ever wondered how something as simple as a 50-cent piece, a coin that most people would pass over without a second glance, could end up being worth more than yachts, skyscrapers, priceless art, or even historic jewels? Because the story of the 1991 $50 proves exactly that, and shows us that in the world of coins, imperfections can turn into perfection when it comes to value. And to truly understand why this coin has captured so much attention, we need to look closely at the way it was made, the minting errors that occurred, the specific anomalies it carries, and the possibilities that make it unique beyond belief. Because the Philadelphia Mint in 1991 struck millions of Kennedy $50 intended for circulation, and most of them were perfectly ordinary coins bearing the familiar profile of John F. Kennedy on the obverse and the heraldic eagle on the reverse. But among this sea of normality, one coin emerged with such a spectacular set of mistakes that it became a legend. And the first thing that collectors noticed when examining the 1991 $50 was its dramatic off-center strike, with the portrait of Kennedy shifted almost 35% away from the center, leaving a large blank crescent of planchette visible on one side, yet keeping the crucial date and mint mark intact, which instantly made it desirable because collectors value errors that still show clear dates and marks. But that was only the beginning, because further inspection revealed that the coin was also double struck, with the second strike overlapping slightly onto the first, creating a ghostly doubled image of Kennedy's face and doubled lettering around the rim, which made the design look almost three-dimensional and incredibly striking to the eye. And then came the revelation that the coin had been struck on the wrong planchette altogether, because metallurgical analysis showed that it was not the standard copper nickel-clad composition of a $50, but instead a foreign planchette of different weight and metallic content, giving it a strange feel and sound when handled, which added yet another layer of impossibility to this piece. And beyond those features, experts identified dramatic die cracks stretching across Kennedy's hair and forehead like lightning bolts, as well as a massive cut near the rim where a chunk of the die had broken away, leaving a raised blob of metal. And as if that was not enough, the reverse side showed evidence of being struck through grease, with entire details of the eagle's wings missing, as though they had been wiped away, creating a ghost-like appearance on the reverse that perfectly matched the doubled features of the obverse. And all of these anomalies together made the coin a spectacular showcase of nearly every major type of minting error that can exist on a single coin, which is practically unheard of, and the chances of all of these mistakes occurring together on one piece, and that piece surviving in mint state condition with blazing luster and virtually no circulation, is astronomically low, which is why this coin is often described as a once-in-a-lifetime or even once-in-history discovery. And when it was finally unveiled to the public and placed on the auction block, the excitement was electric as collectors, investors, and even museums lined up to bid on what was clearly one of the greatest modern era coins ever discovered. And the bidding war that followed pushed the price higher and higher until the final hammer fell at an unbelievable $165 million, shocking even the most seasoned experts and rewriting the record books forever. And what makes this story even more powerful is not just the value itself but the symbolism, because the 1991 half dollar represents the idea that beauty and worth can come from imperfection, that errors which are normally considered flaws can in fact become treasures, and that the ordinary can become extraordinary through chance and circumstance. And have you ever thought about the possibility that right now in your pocket, in a jar of change at home, or in a roll of coins from the bank, there could be a piece with an overlooked error waiting to be discovered? Because that is what keeps the world of coin collecting so exciting. The chance that lightning can strike again. The chance that the next hidden treasure is still out there waiting to be found. And the story of the 1991 half dollar has inspired a whole new generation of collectors to start searching more carefully, to study coins with passion, and to dream bigger than ever before, because this discovery proves that the most valuable things can come from the most unexpected places. And if you imagine holding this coin in your hands, seeing the off-center portrait, the doubled features, the strange planchette composition, the cracks, the cuds, the struck-through errors, and knowing that you are holding not just 50 cents but a piece of history worth $165 million, then you begin to understand the magic of numismatics, because coins are more than money, they are history, art, accident, and treasure all in one. And this is why the 1991 half dollar will forever be remembered not just as a coin with errors but as one of the greatest and most valuable coins in history, a symbol of how chance and imperfection can lead to unimaginable value. And if this story has inspired you, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and keep watching, because the next great discovery could be waiting in your very own pocket change right now. Next, 1979 half dollar. Where the most ordinary objects in our daily lives can suddenly turn into treasures worth more than anyone could ever dream. And today we are diving into one of the most incredible stories in numismatic history, the legendary 1979 half dollar coin that, against all odds and because of its dramatic and rare minting errors and mistakes, ended up being valued at an astonishing $175 million, making it one of the most valuable coins ever known. And have you ever stopped to think that the coins you pass over every single day without a second thought could carry within them hidden errors that transform them into some of the most priceless objects on earth? Because this story of the 1979 half dollar proves that imperfections in the minting process can sometimes create miracles of value and beauty. And the tale of this coin is not just about money but about history, rarity, accident, and the thrill of discovery. So let us take a deep look into what makes this half dollar so valuable, why collectors around the world became obsessed with it, and what kinds of minting errors it carries that made it climb to such breathtaking heights in value. Because in 1979 the United States Mint struck millions of Kennedy half dollars that were never expected to be worth more than their face value of 50 cents, struck primarily for circulation and everyday use. Yet among those millions there surfaced one spectacular coin that carried a combination of minting errors so rare and so extreme that it became instantly legendary. And the first thing that makes this coin special is its off-center strike, where the profile of John F. Kennedy is shifted far to the side, leaving a huge blank crescent of planchette visible, yet still keeping the date and mint mark intact, which is always critical because collectors want to know when and where the coin was struck. And that dramatic off-center strike alone would have made the coin worth thousands, but this piece went far beyond because it was also double struck with the second strike slightly overlapping the first, giving Kennedy's portrait and the surrounding letters a ghostly doubled appearance, almost like two images on one coin, which is one of the most striking errors that captures collector fascination. And as if that were not enough, the coin was struck on the wrong planchette altogether, because when weighed and tested it turned out to have been struck on a planchette meant for a foreign contract coin, which gave it an unusual metallic composition and a weight unlike any normal $half from 1979, making it instantly unique in the entire series. And if those errors were not enough, experts examining the coin also found massive die cracks running across Kennedy's hair and face like lightning bolts, along with a large cut near the rim where a piece of the die broke off completely, leaving a raised blob of metal that distorted the edge. And on the reverse side, the eagle design showed major weakness and missing detail because the coin had been struck through grease that clogged the dies, meaning parts of the design were never fully transferred onto the coin, creating ghostly blank patches where feathers and shield details should have been. And when you add up all these errors, off-center strike, double strike, wrong planchette, die cracks, cuts, struck through grease, you get a coin that is literally a catalog of minting mistakes all rolled into one physical object, and the chances of all those anomalies happening together in one coin are astronomically small, which is why this piece is described as a once-in-history discovery. And what makes it even more mind-blowing is that the coin survived in nearly flawless mint state condition, with its original luster still glowing as if it had just left the press, meaning it avoided the scratches, wear, and damage of circulation that usually ruin coins and reduce their value. And when such a spectacular error coin appears, it is like lightning in a bottle. And collectors know they are looking at something that will never be repeated. And so when the 1979 $half finally appeared at auction, the buzz around it was electrifying as word spread through collector magazines, forums, and mainstream media that something unprecedented was coming to the block. And when the bidding began, it was fierce as millionaires and institutions from around the world fought to own this miracle of minting, until the hammer came down at an unbelievable $175 million, shocking the entire collecting community and rewriting the record books forever. And what makes this story even more fascinating is not just the number attached to it, but the meaning it carries, because this coin is proof that imperfection can become perfection in the eyes of collectors, that mistakes can transform into masterpieces, and that the ordinary 50-cent piece can become a treasure worth more than anyone could ever have dreamed. And this is why the 1979 $half continues to inspire people everywhere to look more closely at their coins, to search their change, to dig through jars and rolls and collections, because the possibility of finding a hidden treasure is always there. And have you ever wondered what it would feel like to hold this exact coin in your hands, to feel the unusual weight of the wrong planchette, to see the off-center portrait of Kennedy staring back at you from the side of the coin, to notice the doubled letters and the jagged die cracks, the raised cut distorting the rim, and the ghostly missing details on the reverse, to know that this piece of metal that was supposed to be worth only 50 cents is actually worth $175 million, because that feeling is what drives the passion of collectors, that sense of wonder, history, and possibility that lies hidden in ordinary objects. And the story of this coin has ignited renewed energy in the hobby, because people everywhere are now paying more attention to their coins, sharing discoveries online, creating communities, and fueling the next wave of treasure hunters who hope that maybe they too will stumble upon a life-changing find. And beyond the money, this coin represents something even greater. It represents the unpredictable magic of chance, the idea that accidents can create beauty, the reminder that value is often found where we least expect it. And this is why the 1979 $half will forever be remembered, not just as a coin worth $175 million, but as a symbol of how the smallest everyday things can hold the greatest surprises. And if you enjoyed this incredible story and it inspired you to start looking more closely at your own change, then make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned, because the next unbelievable discovery could be waiting right in your pocket right now. Next, 1972 $half, where the smallest pieces of metal can carry with them history, mystery, An unimaginable fortune, and today we are going to dive into one of the most astonishing stories in numismatic history, the 1972 half-dollar coin that against all odds became one of the most valuable coins ever known, with a shocking value of $185 million, not because of the silver content or any special commemorative issue, but because of its incredible combination of minting errors and mistakes that turned an ordinary 50-cent piece into one of the most sought-after treasures in the world. And have you ever thought about how something you might casually see in your pocket change or stacked in a jar at home could secretly hold errors so dramatic that collectors and investors would fight over it for record-breaking sums? Because that is exactly what happened with the 1972 half-dollar, and the more you explore its story, the more unbelievable it becomes, because when the US Mint produced the Kennedy half-dollar coins in 1972, millions were struck at different facilities including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, and most of them were perfectly ordinary pieces showing the profile of President John F. Kennedy on the obverse and the heraldic eagle on the reverse. But out of all those coins, one surfaced with a combination of anomalies so rare and spectacular that it stunned the world and redefined what collectors thought possible. And when we break down what makes this particular coin worth $185 million, we have to start with its minting errors, because these mistakes are what separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. And on this coin, one of the most obvious features is its dramatic off-center strike, where Kennedy's portrait is pushed far off to the side, nearly 40%, leaving a wide blank crescent of planchette visible on the obverse, yet still showing the date and mint mark, which collectors always demand, because coins with errors that hide or distort the date are often far less desirable. But in this case, the key information was preserved, making it even more valuable. And alongside this off-center strike, the coin was also double struck, with the second strike landing slightly off from the first, creating a doubled and almost ghost-like image of Kennedy's profile and letters, giving the coin a surreal look, as if two coins had been pressed together. And this kind of doubling is highly prized, especially when it is dramatic and visible to the naked eye. And then came the revelation that the coin was not even struck on the correct planchette, because when weighed and tested, experts discovered that it had been struck on a blank intended for another denomination entirely, giving it a lighter weight and unusual metallic composition, unlike standard half-dollars from 1972, and that wrong planchette error alone would have made it an amazing rarity. But this coin went even further, because close inspection revealed huge die cracks running across Kennedy's hair and down through the obverse like jagged lightning bolts, along with a large cut at the rim where a piece of the die had broken off completely, leaving a raised blob of metal and distorting the edge. And if that was not enough, the reverse showed clear evidence of being struck through grease, with large portions of the eagle's wings and shield missing, making the design look ghostly and incomplete. And when you combine all these anomalies — off-center strike, double strike, wrong planchette, die cracks, cuts struck through errors — you get one of the most spectacular error coins ever known, a coin that is practically a textbook of every major mistake that can happen in the minting process, all wrapped into one piece. And the probability of all those mistakes occurring together in a single coin, and that coin surviving in mint state condition, is almost incalculable, which is why it became instantly legendary. And speaking of condition, the coin survived with blazing mint luster, sharp edges, and virtually no signs of circulation, meaning it looked almost as fresh as the day it left the press, despite its bizarre creation. And when a coin like this appears, it is as if destiny itself intended it to stand out, and collectors know they are looking at something that will never be duplicated. And so when this 1972 half-dollar finally came up for auction, the buzz surrounding it was like nothing the coin world had ever seen, with collectors, investors, museums, and even wealthy individuals from outside the hobby all lining up to try and own this once-in-a-lifetime treasure. And when the bidding began, it quickly soared past every expectation, breaking record after record, until the hammer finally fell at an unbelievable $185 million, cementing its place in history as one of the most valuable coins ever sold. And this sale not only shocked the numismatic world, but also captured the imagination of the public, because it showed that even a coin as ordinary as a half-dollar from the 1970s could become a treasure worth more than the most famous works of art. And what makes this even more fascinating is not just the financial value, but the story it tells, because this Coin embodies the idea that imperfection can create perfection, that flaws can become treasures, and that sometimes the most extraordinary things come from the most unexpected places. And have you ever imagined what it would feel like to hold this coin in your hands, to see the off-center portrait of Kennedy staring back at you from the edge of the planchette, to notice the doubled image of his face and letters, the strange weight of the wrong planchette, the jagged cracks across the obverse, the raised cud distorting the rim, and the ghostly missing details on the reverse, to realize that what you are holding is not just 50 cents but a piece of history worth $185 million, because that is the magic of coin collecting. That is why people dedicate their lives to studying, searching, and preserving coins, because within these small metallic canvases lies the possibility of discovery, wonder, and unimaginable wealth. And the story of the 1972 half-dollar continues to inspire collectors everywhere to search more carefully, to examine their change more closely, to dream bigger, and to remember that treasure can be hidden in the most ordinary of places. And this is why the 1972 half-dollar will forever be remembered, not just as a coin worth $185 million, but as a symbol of chance, fortune, and the magic of numismatics. And if this incredible story has inspired you to look at your coins with new eyes, then make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and keep watching, because the next great discovery could be waiting in your very own pocket right now. Last 1974 half-dollar. Today, as we dive into one of the most unbelievable stories in the world of rare coins and hidden treasures, because today we are going to talk about a coin that has shocked the numismatic community and collectors all around the globe, the 1974 half-dollar coin that somehow, due to an incredible set of minting errors and mistakes, became one of the most valuable coins in history, reaching a staggering worth of $195 million. And while at first glance it may seem hard to believe that an ordinary Kennedy half-dollar from the 1970s could ever be worth such an astronomical sum, once you begin to understand the breathtaking variety of errors and anomalies that occurred on this coin, combined with its historical importance, rarity, and the sheer improbability of its survival in such pristine condition, you begin to realize that this coin is not just a piece of metal but a true masterpiece of error numismatics. And what makes this story so fascinating is that half-dollars from 1974 were produced in the millions, with the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Mint all striking them, yet nearly every one of those coins was perfectly ordinary 50-cent pieces that passed through circulation without notice. But somewhere in that chaotic process of coin production, one coin emerged that contained an extraordinary set of flaws, a combination so rare and so impossible to replicate that it captured the attention of experts who could hardly believe what they were seeing. And let us take a closer look at these mistakes and errors, because each one adds another layer of value and mystique to this remarkable 1974 half-dollar, beginning with one of the most obvious features. The coin was struck dramatically off-center, with Kennedy's portrait shifted nearly 40% toward the rim, creating a crescent of blank planchette space on one side. And yet, despite this misalignment, the date and mint mark were still visible, which is incredibly important for collectors, because a dramatic off-center strike that still preserves the key identifying details is far more desirable. And then things got even more fascinating, because the coin was discovered to be a double-struck example, with the second strike overlapping the first slightly offset, creating ghost-like doubled images of Kennedy's profile, and the inscriptions adding an eerie layered effect that is visible even without magnification. And then, upon testing, experts realized that the coin had been struck not on the usual copper nickel-clad planchette intended for half-dollars, but on a planchette meant for a completely different denomination, giving it a lighter weight and metallic sheen that immediately set it apart from normal examples. And wrong planchette errors are always highly collectible, but when combined with such dramatic striking errors, they become extraordinary. And the surprises did not stop there, because under careful examination, massive die cracks were found running across the obverse, cutting through Kennedy's hairline and jaw like jagged bolts, while on the reverse a die break or cut had formed at the rim, creating a raised blob of metal where part of the die had literally broken off during striking. And adding to this chaotic creation were large struck-through grease areas on the reverse, where details of the eagle's wings, shield, and stars were weak or missing altogether, giving the coin an unfinished, ghostly look, as though the design was fading away. And when you Combine off-center strike, double strike, wrong planchet, die cracks, cards, and strike-through errors into a single coin. You are looking at an almost impossible convergence of minting anomalies, a 1 in a billion chance that such a coin would be created, let alone survive in remarkable condition, and that is exactly what makes this 1974 half dollar so valuable, because it is not just one era coin, it is a showcase of nearly every major era type that can occur in minting, all present together on a single piece. And this is the sort of discovery that coin collectors dream about their entire lives, because it proves that even coins thought to be ordinary can harbor unimaginable rarity, and as if the errors themselves were not enough, the condition of the coin elevated it to another level entirely, because this 1974 half dollar remained in near mint state condition with blazing luster, minimal marks, and crisp sharp details despite the chaotic way it was struck. And this is incredibly rare because era coins often get rejected or damaged during production, but for this one to escape the mint and survive decades without major wear is truly miraculous. And when it finally surfaced at auction, it immediately generated worldwide attention. Collectors, investors, museums, and wealthy private buyers from around the world all competing to own this once-in-a-lifetime treasure, and the bidding war that followed became legendary, with offers quickly surpassing every record for era coins before it, until finally the hammer fell at an astonishing $195 million, a price so high that it stunned even the most seasoned numismatists and cemented this coin's place in history as one of the most valuable coins ever sold. And what makes this story so captivating is not just the money, but the lesson it teaches, because this coin reminds us that value is not always about perfection, but sometimes about imperfection, that mistakes can create beauty, rarity, and desirability in ways that no mint could ever plan. And for collectors, it sparks the imagination, because it suggests that treasures may still be hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered in jars of change, coin rolls, or old collections. And can you imagine the thrill of holding this coin in your hands, to see Kennedy's face shifted off-center, doubled by a second strike, weighed down by the wrong planchet, cracked through with dramatic die breaks, marked with cuds, and faded with struck through areas, to feel its strange weight and know that you are holding not 50 cents but a fortune worth $195 million, because that is the magic of coin collecting. That is why people search for hours through bags of coins, because within those small metallic discs lies the potential for discovery, history, and life-changing value. And the 1974 half dollar is not just a coin, it is a symbol of chance and fortune, of how rare accidents in the minting process can create a masterpiece that will never be duplicated. And it inspires collectors everywhere to keep searching, to look more closely at their change, to dream about the possibility that their next find could be the one that changes their life forever. And this is why the 1974 half dollar, with its astonishing $195 million value, will always be remembered as one of the greatest discoveries in numismatic history, a coin that turned mistakes into miracles and proved that sometimes the most extraordinary things are born from accidents. So if this incredible story has inspired you to take a closer look at your own coins and to imagine the possibilities hiding in your pocket right now, then make sure you stay tuned, because the world of rare coins is full of surprises, and the next record-breaking treasure might be waiting just for you.